Hello, I am Archivist Asheron, and welcome to my study. And today, I wasn't really feeling up to doing much else because of reasons, and so I decided to instead just do some Asheron's Call stuff with in regards to content creation in the game, which wasn't something I'd done a lot of until somewhat recently when I finally kind of started getting around to it and checking it out cuz I don't know, just the idea of being able to add anything I wanted and like new content, new interesting things into my favorite game in existence. It was a very, interesting concept that I was quite interested in, exploring a bit further. So in Asheron's Call, this won't be like an official tutorial or anything. I'm planning on making an official tutorial, but I do not yet have that kind of knowledge. I would need to do this for a while again because it was quite a few months ago that I did all the stuff in here that I've made, and I've kind of forgotten half of how to do everything. But I remember enough to just be able to run around and show off what I did. And it's all pretty cool if you ask me. I suppose, first of all, the first thing that I would show off is the buff bot system that I made. And this system I personally don't really need, but I was planning on having some other people playing on my server, and they are very used to, or at least would like to make use of buff bots. But buff bots don't really exist without other people on the server, because this is my own private server, and I'm the only person online. I don't know how I could like check the number of people online, but it's just me. Uh, but as you can see, in the place where buff bots normally are in Holtberg, there is a new person, a completely unique NPC that has. I mean, just for the record, almost all NPCs have randomized hair. I did not choose that they had a mohawk that's bright orangish red, but that's all randomized by the game because they have that setting, turned on that they all just have really wet. I mean, NPCs always have randomized hair, but usually it's only a select number of the hairstyles available. And I turned on the option that made it so all hairstyles, even the wacky bright red mohawks, were available for all NPCs to have. So that was not a stylistic choice on my part. That's just what the game decided they should have today. But, anyways, new NPC and another new NPC over there. So this person is an enhancement mage, which are scattered currently throughout like 3 different locations, I think. I can't quite remember where exactly I put them, but this one's the novice one, so it's the lowest level variant. And what happens is, I suppose I should talk to them first. So if you talk to them, they'll say, "Need any buffs today? I can grant you a full set of level 2 buffs if you bring me a level 2 buff token." And then you can buy it from her over by the bindstone. Now, with her, you can either give her a what is it? Is it an L note? No, it's an X note. Let me go get an X note. I could just summon myself an X note because this is the admin account, but we're gonna play by the rules if we have enough pyreals, which I think we should. So you give me an X note. So that's 1,000 pyreals. I didn't want to make the buff bots free, just because I felt like that would not only be kind of immersion breaking, but also a bit game breaking if you could just get infinite free buffs whenever you wanted. So I kind of made it a thing that you actually need to buy the tokens, or alternatively, if you talk to her, the person who gives you the stuff, then she'll give you a whole spiel about, you know, if you need a buff token, give me an X note, which is like the initial thing to tell you can buy them from her and how much it costs. But then she says, though I've only got a few left, and she'll give you a whole spiel about how she was playing by the river and a mean drudge stole the bag of buff tokens that her mom had given to her, and so she's almost out because she lost most of them. So what you do is essentially she gives you the she says that it was in the Holtberg dungeon, which normally the Holtberg dungeon, as far as I know, doesn't have any major quests available in it. So that's kind of the first thing about content creation in this game is you want to kind of utilize the random locations around the world that have nothing else important in them. Now, it is a bit sad because the random non-essential locations in the world are kind of the charm of Asheron's Call, because like in WoW, you very rarely find a location that is fully fleshed out, an entire dungeon with its own layout and everything that just serves absolutely no actual purpose. Like, it's not connected to any quest or anything. But here, it's like you got this dungeon, it's got braziers, it's got torches, cobwebs, it's got its own unique layout and map, and has its enemies all over the place, but it's not connected as far as I know to any specific quest. Actually, I think this one I think might have a key at the bottom that is for the Sword of Lost Light quest. So never mind. There is kind of something here, but for most of the dungeon there's nothing. So that is kind of the charm of the game, and it's kind of sad that I have to overwrite some of that charm in order to create unique and new quests. But this one's at least not very intrusive, because you see here, you got all these drudge servants in this room, but then one of these things is not like the others. You have the mean drudge. I would have put that in quotations, but the naming conventions in the game, the way that the system works, doesn't allow that very much. But this is a completely unique enemy that I went through on what is it called? What's the what's it called? In it's in program files? No. Where is all this stuff? Oh, it's not on D drive, it's on C drive. That makes sense. Weenie Fab is one of them. So that's a system that lets you create weenies, which is what the game is like cut up into. Every like individual enemy and everything you can pick up and use, and like doors, enemies, items, everything like that is a weenie. I don't know why they call them that, but I'm not joking. That is exactly what it's called. So Weenie Fab is something you can download that will let you it gives you a nice interface to be able to alter like the stats, the name, the drops, the spells that they cast, everything about an enemy or item. You can edit it in there with a nice little format that makes it easy to work with. And additionally, there's AC Viewer, where if you use AC Viewer, it's a little finicky, especially if you're trying to look at map files. At least for me, it crashes like within a minute if you're trying to look at a map file. I don't know why, but generally, if you're just looking at models for enemies, it's perfectly fine. And you can find every single model in the game, because it actually, what it does is it opens up the DAT files and can kind of decipher them in a way that lets you see what certain like code is designated to. So this enemy is like a drudge, but it's like I took one of these, but I increased the size a bit, which is default scale on that's what the thing is called in the system, is just default scale. I set that to like 1.2 or something to make it taller. And then I looked through the AC viewer and found this drudge coloration that isn't used, as far as I know, anywhere else. Or at least it's very rare. I don't remember any drudge looking like this. So you can find these different colorations that are completely unused and kind of turn them into new enemies, or even reuse one. Like if I make a drudge servant but make them real big, they're going to look like a completely different enemy. So you can do that. But this one is the Bean Drudge, and then if I use my Kablamo spell, it just one-shots most things in the game, then you will see that you get off of it a bag of buff tokens. Oh, would you look at that? And basically this is another weenie that I edited, and it has its own little designation in the code as to like what its file is. And so I made like a unique, or I used a unique bag icon. I think this was from a certain quest near, kind of like around one of the Spire towns, like Red Spire or Green Spire. I don't remember where exactly that was from, but it's a bag icon, and it's pretty unique. So I used that, and you just name it Bag of Buff Tokens, and then you can connect the quest to the item identifying number. So it's pretty slick. The whole system is quite intuitive once you get used to it. Same with the buff token. It looks like a hero token, but it's actually a regular buff token. And then you even have you have the level 2 buff tokens, which gives you level 2 spells. You have level 4 buff tokens, which give you level 4 spells, and it's the same icon, as you can see. You know, it's just the little token, but I put a little blue thing on the outside of this to designate that it looks, you know, visually that it's different. And then you have level 6s and level 7s, which also, this one has a purple and this one has an orange outline on it. So you can make them look pretty unique, and it's pretty cool what you can do with it. Like this weapon here, the Crimson Spine Axe, it's a new two-handed weapon that I made that is used, you know, with the new armoradillo that I added. You can use its spine to get you this weapon. And it has the same model as a regular spine axe, but I kind of sized it up so it looks like it is big enough to be a two-handed weapon, and I removed the purple aura around it so it looks visually distinct from the regular spine axe. And it's a pretty decent weapon. I'd noticed that, first of all, two-handed weapons are really rare in this game. You know, they weren't added too long before they ended production on the game and like new content. So new weapons, two-handed weapons specifically at mid-level, are really quite rare. Like in endgame, you have a few really good two-handed weapons like a Great Blood Scorch and what are the other ones? I mean, of course you have the Atlan weapon, and you have the ones that are in the Viridian Rise. I forget what they're called, like Stormwood weapons or something. But those are pretty good. I've never gotten them. They're really endgame. But they're, you know, those endgame areas do have two-handed weapons, but you don't have those for most of the game. Like that is really end game content, and that's where you get most of the good stuff. Whereas here, uh, I do have this a little mixed up because this is still electrical, but I have Swordsman's Gift on it. So that is something that's on the bucket list to fix, because this used to be slashing. I used to have this just as a slashing weapon, but I changed it back to electrical because you have a lot of slashing weapons in the game for two-handed combat. You don't have, as far as I remember, any quest electrical two-handers except the Stormwood weapons, like way in the end game. So I felt more quest related two-handers were needed, so I made this. uh but that's a bit off topic. That just came up because it's got a visually distinct model to it. So yeah, with these buff tokens, though, you can give her the buff token bag, and she'll be like, "You found my bag, thank you." And then she'll give you 3 level 2 buff tokens for free, plus some experience, which, you know, this is a low level quest, so not very much XP. And these all stack. I don't remember how high they stack, but they stack in general. And then here's the fun part. I have no buffs except for all of the amazing buffs that my fully leveled society necklace that I gave myself gives me. Don't ask why. I mean, I'm an admin. I can do whatever the heck I want. So if you hand them one of these, then they'll do that, and they will give you a crap ton of buffs that I had to manually put in here. Uh, Ooh, that's weird. No, that I think that might be normal. It was armor buffs that I couldn't put on. So I figured out how to put on every type of buff in the game. All these bad boys, all the item tinkering, mastery, and mana renewal, and they're all level twos because this is just the level. This is the novice mage. Uh, but I figured out how to put all those on, including, I guess, the weapon buffs. I thought the weapon buffs were a bit finicky, but I guess they are auras now. Instead of buffing the weapon itself, you buff the person, so there's no issue with those. But I couldn't figure out how to get them to cast armor buffs. Of course, this can't be buffed anyways because it's just admin gear. But if you had real armor on, they still wouldn't buff you, as far as I can tell. Uh, so I could never figure out the armor buffs, which was unfortunate. But everything else works, and that's kind of what's important. The armor buffs aren't nearly as integral to survival as everything else is. So, plus most people get item enchantment anyways for portal magic. So you, worst case scenario, could just buff your own armor with that. But who knows? I'm still working on it. If there's a solution to it, I'll find it eventually. It's a work in progress. But that is kind of a good introduction because it has a unique quest NPC over here that you can do a quest to get some free buff tokens, which I always wanted to add in as an alternative. Like, if you don't want to pay out the nose to get, the buffs that you want, then you can just do the quest once a day and get free buff tokens out of it from the quest NPC. So that's always good. And then there's a unique NPC that doesn't have any quests but gives you a bunch of buffs and still is quite important. So I wanted to add that, kind of show that off first, that there's a lot of cool things you can do with like interactions between NPCs and stuff. And the quests are a little complicated to make. When I actually make a tutorial about this, I'll go into detail on all of that as to how that works and how one does that, but as of now, that's not really all that important. But the main limitation of this whole system is landscape. As of right now, I'm hoping they'll fix it eventually. I'm sure they will. But as of right now, there is no uh way to create landscape objects. So you see like this table and this house and the ground out there. And even these trees, at least 99% of them, are all landscape objects, except for this sign. This sign I'm pretty sure is a weenie. But once again, it's not. I'm not insulting it, calling it a weenie. That's literally what it is. But yeah, so you can't make landscape objects at all, as far as I can see. I think people were working on something that's like a world editor. I don't know how that's going, or if it's even, maybe it's finished by now. I don't know. But I am very much looking forward to that because things like this little pedestal here, that's a world object. I can't move it. I can't change it. I can't recreate it. It's just there. All these houses are all exactly where they always will be. You can't change that. You can't replicate them. So if you're trying to make your own town, good luck because you can't as of yet, as far as I know. I do know there's one person who has somewhat been able to do this, and that is Dekaru for Dekaru Tide. And I know he's removed world objects because there is the special DAT file that he uses for his server doesn't have any of the housing systems in it. And I don't know how he did it or why or when, but he is some kind of wizard and managed to figure out how to edit the DAT file and remove those specific buildings from it. And in theory, if you get good enough at that, you'd be able to actually make new buildings and new land masses and new this, that, the other using the DAT file. But I'm no DAT file wizard, so I have no idea how people do that, honestly. Uh, oh, hey, Ebos, how's it going? And what am I in? As in, what is this game? What am I in the 90s? That is a good point. But Actually, this game, I believe, came out in 1999, so you're not wrong. Uh, but yeah, Ebos, welcome. This is Asheron's Call, my favorite game. Been playing it since I was a wee lad. Uh, very long time, like literally 20 years, probably, give or take. I've been playing this. Very fun game. I enjoy it. And right now I'm on my own private server of it, so I get to play it with zero latency and do whatever the heck I want. And I was just walking around and giving a tour on stream of all the cool custom content I've made for it. So welcome. Glad you could be here. So where was I? Yes, Cragstone. So we were just in Holtberg looking at the first buff bot. I believe I made another one in Cragstone. You're practically God in the server. You know what's funny? You see how my health is at 100,000 of like everything? All my vitals are at 100,000. I literally have God mode turned on. So yes, I am God in this server. I could press some buttons like right here. Pumpkin Golem, I want to make one of those. Boom. I can summon any enemy that I wanted right now. So yes, I am literally just a deity in this realm. So yeah, but those are two custom enemies I made. They use the same kind of like models and coloration that are already in the base game because I don't know how to add new ones of those. But I altered their stats and loot tables and stuff like that. So it's quite cool that you can do that. And so down here is another one of the uh enhancement mages. So this one, you talk to him and he says pretty much the same thing, but then you talk to this person and they will basically be like, oh yes, I can give you a buff token for a C note. So this one's the level 4 buff tokens, so they're a bit higher level. But I found a nearby dungeon that didn't have much else going on, and it's actually quite a long run. I might want to teleport there. Because it's the Dungeon of Shadows way down here. But essentially, I run very fast, so we should get there soon. So yeah, they say, if you're willing to help me, I could get you some extra tokens for free if you're interested. A while back, I was walking down the southwestern road and was assailed by a shadow. The shadow didn't kill me, but it stole my symbol of marriage. Not even sure why it wanted it, but it's very precious to me. I believe the fiend fled into the dungeon of shadows. And so I coded all of this for them to say all of it. And it starts a quest, which, well, I guess it doesn't even start a quest. This one, I think they say this every time you talk to them, and they just basically react a certain way when you give them uh certain items. So it's kind of an impromptu quest, but it doesn't actually have quest coding in it. So yeah, there is that. Uh so for last stream, it's fine. I mean, it was, you didn't say anything too out of pocket. I mean, it was a decently normal conversation. And I enjoyed having a chat with you. It was good times. So yeah, we need to go to the Dungeon of Shadows, which is right down this way, and kill a certain shadow and then go back to Cragstone. Which, as I said, I could have teleported myself over here, but I didn't because it is what it is. So here's the dungeon. And this, once again, is a dungeon that, as far as I know, doesn't have any actual, like, explicit quest use in the game. Like, you can go in here, you can kill things, but there is no main quest that's, like, linked to this dungeon. I also do not remember the route through here, so even though I added an enemy to this dungeon, I'm still gonna need to like figure out how the heck to navigate it. So we'll just keep going down, and hopefully that leads us somewhere good. Because the enemy I added is like way at the very bottom of the dungeon. Here we go. We're getting close to it. And then over here. Sadly, as I was kind of explaining earlier, although I think that was before you got here, all the landscape items are, as of now, locked in stone. They are all in the DAT file that you download to be able to play the game, and we haven't figured out, as you know, emulator users, how to edit the DATs. So all landscape files and dungeon files and everything like that are fairly set in stone, and that is very sad for me. But as I said earlier, people are working on a world building tool, as far as I heard, that will make it so that we can actually edit things like this and add like copy entire dungeons, make new dungeons and stuff like that. So that would be very cool. And there were world building tools in the past. We never had access to them because they were official tools. They're the things they actually use to build the game. And those did exist. We have pictures of them, but those were never publicly released, so we don't have the actual code of them. So people are working on them, but it's hard to kind of build those from the ground up because you need to disassemble the whole game and figure out how to make an intuitive tool that can put it together in a different way and edit the DATs in certain ways. It's complicated. But yeah. So these are the normal enemies that are in the dungeon, little shadow children. And then there's the thieving shadow, which is a unique enemy that I added in. And if you one-shot it, because I am a literal deity in this world, then it drops you the unique symbol of marriage right there. And then we're just gonna teleport out of here because running all the way back would be a pain. So we're just gonna teleport back to Aphis Lassel and go through the town network portal and then go back to Cragstone. Yeah, and then you turn this in and it gets you some more of the buff tokens, the level 4 buff tokens, which is very nice. I like the system that I thought up for it, and I feel like it's decently intuitive. You know, you just do the quests and you get the buffs. And there's only one more of these. I think there's actually two more. There's one in Iron Bekur. Yeah, so that gives us 4 level 4 buff tokens. If we give one of those to him, he will give us all the buffs. Very nice. And those all surpass the level 2 buffs we just got because they're level 4 buffs, so they're superior. And then there's level 6s and level 7s. Now, the other two I'm just gonna not look at because the level 6 one is pretty similar, and I don't have a quest for that one yet. And the level 7 ones are unique in that they aren't just sitting in the middle of town, kind of like how the master archmages are all way out in the wilderness somewhere, and to get the best spell components you need to like go find them. I made it so that the level 7 buff bots are all out in the middle of the wilderness, and you actually need to find where they are and do their quests in order to get their buffs. So it's a bit of a cool experience where if you have level 7 buffs, you'll be best just doing it on your own, but if you can find one of those buff bots, then you can get your level 7 buffs for yourself, which is quite nice. But aside from that, that's only a small portion of what I've done making custom content here. That's just that little thing. So, first of all, anybody who's been in the annex side of the town network might notice something is a bit weird here, which is that there's an extra portal. This final portal space is usually empty, and it doesn't have a sign over it. But I used it to go to New Collier, which is essentially a town that, you know, anyone who's played the game knows Collier. And it's normally a town overrun by a bunch of monsters and undead. But I erased all the enemies that were here and retrofitted the town because, as I said, landscape objects can't be made or destroyed. So, in order to make my own town, I had to find a place that had a bunch of buildings next to each other that didn't already have NPCs in them. And Collier was the only town I could think of that is completely abandoned and not used for anything else aside from the Collier quest, which I didn't get in the way of the Collier quest. Because if you know, there's a bunch of NPCs in the town. If you go in here and talk to this person here, they will give you, they'll say, I found this key in the basement under a barrel. I think it goes to the mines under our house, but it's scary down there. You can have it if you promise to clear out all the nasties. And so, yeah, that kind of just gives you one of the two keys needed for the Collier quest, and the other key, I moved the enemy that drops it into the dungeon itself. So that is quite nice. I like how I handled that, like integrated it all into there. And I had to add doors to all of these, which I don't know what is with these doors, because I thought I just had a regular door, but these doors are wedge shaped, so they never really fit quite well. I might need to change that someday. I know there's some doors that aren't wedge shaped in this game, but yeah, these doors are a bit funky. But I added all the doors on these buildings because they used to not have them. And I added a bunch of NPCs as well. Like here we have a blacksmith and a weaponsmith. And I'm also trying to keep it like lore consistent. So you have entire like families in each house. And additionally, there's this NPC that does nothing. She's just kind of here. She'll say things if you talk to her. But then, if you go upstairs, her sister actually gives you a quest, which is the first quest that I actually implemented. Yeah, it is a quest, because this one actually has like a quest timer and everything on it, which I guess the other one did as well, but we're just gonna ignore that. Uh, oh yeah, I love seeing the smiths with the corpses near them. Yeah, the corpses are part of the landscape. I can't change those, so I had to work them into part of the lore. So let me just see if I can get her to say it here. She has a voice line that, or text voice line. Yeah, here it is. Just these decorations are so realistic. Where she, you know, the kid thinks that all the corpses that they haven't taken down yet are just like Halloween decorations or something. Anyways, but her sister, the one with the quest, basically says that a monster took her doll and that they're off to the east. And then you come over to the east and you see the large barrel shreth, which is a completely unique enemy that I made. And if you absolutely annihilate with your one-shot spell, which I'm sure everyone has access to, then it will always drop a mosswort doll. And it has like a little description and everything. But this thing won't respawn for a little bit, I don't think, so I might need to spawn one myself. So if I spawn another one of these and kill it, in theory, as far as I know, yeah. So you try to pick it up and it says, you may complete this quest again in this much time. So this is indeed an official quest that has a pickup timer, which was hard to figure out how to implement, but once I got it down, it was quite cool that I could do that. And so you pick up the doll and you run back and you hand it to her, and that's the quest, essentially. My goal for this area is basically to make a good and rewarding area to try to level between level like 100 plus, because I've noticed in the mid game from about level 100 onwards there aren't really many new quests that give you a good amount of XP and really give you a lot to do. So I wanted to kind of fill that gap with turning Collier into like a questing hub essentially. But all of this so far is all pretty normal stuff. I mean, you make NPCs, you give them quests. That's, you know, nothing really like super exciting and fun and interesting. Because anyone can do that, just with enough time and effort put in to just figure out the NPCs. Oh, but there is a pretty cool NPC over here. The trophy smith. So any of the new trophies that I add in with all the new enemies, you turn them into the trophy smith and she'll give you the corresponding item. So say I have, let's see. It's always so hard to figure out where the stuff is in here. I tried to like order them in a way, but it's still very difficult to find them sometimes. Crimson Armoradillo Spine. So if I create inventory, one of those, and then hand that to her, she's like, a wonderful specimen. Let's see what I can fashion from this. And then you get the XP, and she gives you the Crimson Spine Axe that I showed earlier in the stream. That is my completely unique new two-handed weapon that looks like a spine axe. So very cool. I have that all working, and that's a pretty cool NPC. And then there's Pam Keen, which the name is not in reference to anything at all. And she... Oh, I already have the quest. Why do I already have this quest? Anyways, she gives you a quest to kill pumpkin golems. So let's see if I can make a pumpkin golem and we can see if it actually is working still. Because last time I checked it was working. It might not be working. Oh yeah, I never got it to say in chat the progress on the quest. I never figured out how to do that, but I didn't put a ton of time into that. It does work though. Last I tried it, I was able to kill the 30 golems and go back to her and get the reward. But that is my work in progress version of a kill task. So I'll get back to that as to how I'm gonna figure that out. But the most important thing, I don't know if it's even revolutionary, but the thing that I'm most proud of in what I made was through this portal. So this is a unique portal that I completely made new coordinates to and edited the portal file and everything, and even gave it a new description. And this takes you to New Lithia. Now that, on the map, is here. This string of islands here, this is 2 islands, were never used in actual Asheron's Call development. They're south of Aphis Lassel, so I assume they were going to be part of that. But they're far enough away that you can't access them normally. You can't just walk across the water. But they don't have any enemies. They don't have any embellishment. They don't have anything on them. They're just empty landscape blocks. So what I did was I kind of took them over. So if you go through this portal, it will take you to up here at the northern end of the islands. And now these, it's gonna be, my buffs are gonna be running out. Don't mind that. These islands used to just be completely flat, with 0 embellishment, no trees, no bushes, no rocks, just flat landscape. Well, the hills were here, but you know what I mean. And I learned how to actually add embellishments, which is more complicated than one might think, because you can't change the landscape items. So all of these are normally landscape items, and the trick is you need to turn them into weenies. Basically, you need to make them into the types of items you can actually edit and create. So what I did, I don't know if people have done this before, I'm assuming that they have, possibly, but I basically made a bunch of items, like here, dead tree. If I make this, boom. So it's an item that I can just call in, but it's also a tree. So what I did was I looked at the AC viewer and looked through a bunch of files, like a ton of them, and found all the like visual files for these. I don't remember what is the term for it. It's not visual file. It's, let me go into Weenie Fab and see what they call it. Let's see. It's, if I open one like you guys can't see what I'm doing over here. It's the setup, I think. I think setup is what it's called. And so setup, essentially, it dictates what it will look like, what its hitbox is, how big it is, if it like is a physical object or not. All of that stuff is in the setup file. And so I went through on AC Viewer and found the setup files for the trees, like palm trees, regular trees, dead trees, little bush things. And I used those setup files and applied them to weenies. So these are all actually like loaded in entities that just have the same look and characteristics as the landscape trees. And that is how I was able to add them onto this island. which was very hard to figure out. And then I needed to try to place them manually throughout this entire area, which is harder than it may seem. The only issue is that they have loading distance things. So, like, if they're far enough away, you can't see them and they just kind of pop into existence once you get close enough. Like over here, it just kind of pops in. And that happens with landscape objects too, but usually they're loaded in much further away. What are you doing over here? Okay, that's a bit bugged out. That's not how that's supposed to be. Anyways, this island is... I never did anything with this just yet. I only put embellishments on that island to kind of test out the system, see if it would lag everything, because they're all separate entities that it's loading. So I was kind of afraid it would put a lot of strain on the system, but it kind of didn't. It's been fine so far. So eventually I'm gonna go through and make this entire larger island filled with palm trees and regular trees and rocks and small trees, dead trees. And then I can add new portals to dungeons and other such locations around the island. And I'm even gonna have things like one system that I did implement to a degree. Let's see. It was... what were the two I actually added in? I It's hard to remember. I think it was the Ancient Frost Spirit. So I create one of these. So this is a rare enemy. I made them have like a unique blue icon on the minimap so you can see them when running around, and I'll have them spawn randomly in the landscape once I actually fill this with spawn blocks, but I haven't gotten that far yet. But these guys will spawn randomly, and they're very tough. Level 180, 8,000 health. Some have more health than that. This guy casts spells, so he actually has mana. And you can, kill him with your death beam, which is actually a difficult thing to do, because not only because I'm using elemental fury and he's an elemental enemy, but also they have a big health pool. So these things are not going to be your everyday easy enemy to kill. They're a rare enemy for a reason. And then they drop their treasure, and in it you can get the condensed frost essence. Now that is all well and good, right? But then you have... where is it? Okay. Leave soul, frost essence, soul. Okay. We need one of these. Which one was it? Aha. Ancient Cursed Doll. That was it. So then, this is another rare enemy that if... let's look at their stats. 8,000 health like the other one. They also cast spells, so they have mana. And these aren't attacking me because I'm in God mode, so I've set it so they don't attack me. But I do more damage to this one because it's not elemental based. So we just annihilate it like that. And then you can loot it and get its little thing. Now, this was something that took me a little while to figure out, but there is a way to add crafting recipes into the game. So if I use this on this, or this on this, which one was it? It wasn't either of those. How do you get that? Because, yeah, I don't remember which exactly go together, but there is... no, frost-infused soul, frost-infused pearl, because this is one of these. Something might have broken the recipe file, but you're supposed to be able to put these two together, unless... no, those are the base components. Yeah, but you're supposed to be able to put those together into an item. Where is all the stuff that I need? Because there's a frost-infused pearl. Where's the regular pearl? It's very hard to see because this is like a very condensed list, and so it's easy to just kind of look right over something. But there's supposed to be kind of a Nephane pearl in here somewhere that I can use. A darkened Nifis pearl. I think that's it. Yeah. So this is from the Nifis rare. My buffs are running out, so that's gonna be loud. and I think yeah, that one works. Okay. So I used the Frost Infused Soul, which is supposed to be these two put together, and used it on another rare item to get the Frost Infused Pearl. And then I was going to have a quest interaction in a dungeon that you can then purify the pearl, because this is the Frost Infused Pearl, but now there's a Frost Purified Pearl that is a casting implement. So I wanted it to be that this entire island has a bunch of rare spawns on them, and each of the rare spawns give you a certain like crafting material that you put together into an uber weapon for its level. So that's what I did with the Frost Purified Pearl. It gives you some good cold spell bonuses, Crushing Blow, Biting Strike, some decent spells, really good melee defense modifier. So a pretty generically good weapon for a spellcaster. And I was going to also have one that isn't like a Frost Purified Pearl, but like a Defiled Pearl or something that makes it so it's a Void Magic casting implement. So lots of work to be done there, lots of stuff, but it is cool that at least one of the crafting recipes I had worked, and was able to make the Frost Infused Pearl. It's very much a work in progress, but I did figure out how to do it, and it is somewhat functional, which is really cool to me because I never knew before how the system knows what items go together, but now I know not only how the system does it, but how to make the system do it with specific items I want it to do it with. So it's very cool to me. I'm having a lot of fun with it, with just kind of throwing things together and hoping that they work. Uh, so yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that I've worked with, as you can see with this entire file thing. We have a bunch of new enemies and just new everything, like the Crimson Armoradillo. I found this look for them and was like, that looks pretty red. So I made that be their name. And if we're lucky, they drop the no. Because I looked at regular Armoradillos and what their drop chance is for their spine, and copied that for this one. So they can sometimes drop their spine and sometimes not. And then, of course, that gives you the spine axe. And there's multiple other enemies that do that. Like the barrel shreths, they don't have any like specific item they drop because shreths usually don't. I guess those shreth hides, I could add that in, but yeah. So this is just a regular enemy that I also made. It's very nice. There's the Niphuses, which actually I think the Niphus isn't a rare. Yeah, it's just a regular Niphus that has the chance to drop the pearl. No pearl. But yeah, I think it's really cool. Oh yeah, the deep alloy golem. What did I ever do with this one? Okay, it just looks like that. Yeah, and that's another rare. That drops the deep alloy ore. And basically this is just like a random golem of a alloy that we do not know what it is. But it has kind of a cool look for a golem, in that I believe this is the Gladiator Deimos look, I think. So yeah, and then they drop the deep alloy, which I haven't added anything to that, I don't think. Because you're supposed to use it with the Caustic Griever, which is another rare. Uh, and you're supposed to use it with the acid from this to kind of temper the ore with the acid. And that would do something to it. And then you can make different weapons. Because I was hoping one weapon of each weapon class. So, you know, you have a casting implement, which is the first one I implemented. But, you know, I wanted like one-handed weapons of all kinds and all that. Did I ever include this? No, I didn't. So yeah, you can't use those on each other yet, but that's how I was going to do it. And I was even going to make a lot of like interusability where like the frost essence might be used on a different weapon as well, and kind of mix and match the different ones to make different end products. So I thought that would be pretty cool, but who knows? We'll see how far I get with that. It's a bit tedious to make all that because you need to make the enemy, then you need to make the item, then you need to make the enemy drop the item, then you need to make it so that the item is in a crafting file that says that it is able to be combined with something else. So you need to make that other item and the enemy that drops that other item. Then you need to make the third item that is the result of the two items being put together. And it is, huh, it is a lot of tedious kind of item making and just throwing things together, getting the icons, getting the new, you know, IDs for all the items. It's a whole to do, but it will be quite cool once I actually get that figured out. Uh, so yes, and definitely the creative part of gaming. I've always had like multiple types of creativity where I have like my writing creativity that I need to have an outlet for, but I've also always been interested in making games. And most of the time that kind of just ends with some like a project that I pick up for a bit, make some progress on it, get a bit better at coding, and then lose interest after like a month because I naturally move on to other things after a little bit. And then I never finish it. I never actually make any more progress on it because by the time I come back, I've lost where I was and can't get back to it. But this kind of gives me a consistent and lasting, world that I can always come back to and just add more onto, and it's a world that I already really like. I was even thinking, there is a, little shout out, not that there's many people here that would hear it, but little shout out to the Asheron's Call server that I think is still going called The Tower, because they basically tore apart Asheron's Call at the seams and made their own custom server that it's a roguelike. They turned an MMO into a roguelike, and it's really cool the stuff they were doing with it. They didn't go about it the same way I would have, and I was even thinking of trying to make my own roguelike type experience, but that would be a lot of work, and I don't know if I could do that. But I think that it's still really cool what they're doing with it. And I was thinking, if I wanted to, I could go around the entire map, the entire world of Asheron's Call, to every town and delete all the NPCs from them, get rid of all the quests, all the pre-existing things, and just fill the entire world with my own NPCs and my own quests and my own everything. In theory, I could do that. And of course, once landscape editing is a thing, I could just make my own like little continent in the middle of this ocean. Or it's a sea, it's called the Inner Sea. And I could make a little continent in the middle there and just fill it up with all kinds of unique towns and quests and everything. But that technology is not available to us yet. But in theory, I could just name Holtberg a completely different thing, fill it with a bunch of NPCs that are unique, and just use the shell of the game that I have to fill it with anything that I want. And I think that would be really cool, but also a ton of work. So maybe not. Maybe not yet. I'll just wait, as far as I know, until they get the map editing. But I can just add things into the game in the empty spaces until then. Oh, and in Collier, I even added my own lifestone, because lifestones aren't like a unique little thing. They're just an object that when you use it, it saves your location for you to be able to teleport back to it later. So like if I do slash lifestone, which will take half my mana, which never really regenerates back up to full because of how much I have, which is very annoying. But if I do Lifestone, I believe I'm already Lifestoned here, it will just take me back to this, even though it's a custom Lifestone that doesn't actually exist in the base game. So that's kind of cool. And I did make the town network portal as well in here, but it doesn't have the little iconic town network pillars that are usually around it, because those are part of the landscape, and I haven't figured out how to make those myself to put around it. So for now, it's just kind of a generic portal back to the town network, but it does work, so that's nice. And yeah, So there's multiple other things that I've edited, but I don't know how much more of that I can actually show. Uh, I suppose I could go to Ian Becker and show off the level 6 buff bot, but that's pretty much the same as the other buff bots. So yeah. And I was thinking, if I wanted to add more content and more like quest givers and quest lines, I could even have an entire faction that just kind of lives out in the wilderness. Because, as I said, you can't add new buildings, and there's not always enough abandoned buildings out in the middle of nowhere to work with. Although there are quite a few, like, let's say, I believe outside Yanshi, there's a few, like Mosswort House, Abandoned House, Mosswort Cave, Undead House, Abandoned House, Statue Circle, like, all these random little areas that don't really have anything important going on there. You could just, like, you could go to the Mosswort House, delete all the Mossworts, and put an NPC in there. And that adds some, like, new area to add more, like, quest lines and stuff. But if I had an entire faction that's like, kind of tribal type faction, then I could just place them anywhere in the world and have like little camps outside that don't require me to make any buildings or anything for them, because that's an impossibility. So I have thought of ways that I could add entire big quest lines and new NPCs without, pushing the limitations of the game too much. So that's all very fun, but the reason why I was doing this instead of some other game is because I was having lots of stomach issues earlier today, which is pretty normal for me. Stomach aches in the morning are really commonplace, sadly. Uh, so I didn't want to get into anything that would take too long to do or be too much of an investment in case I was like absolutely dying. Luckily, it's gotten a bit better as we've gotten closer to noon, because usually the morning issues with my stomach don't last longer than past 12 o'clock, which is very odd. I don't know why it's on like a timer like that, but that's just how I am. But I wanted to do something, because, yesterday I said that I would stream today, so I wanted to do that. At least do something important, like show off all my cool Asheron's Call stuff. And I had a good time doing it. And my throat is sore because I've been rambling nonstop for like an hour, which I really do need to up my voice, stamina significantly. I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but I think I just need to keep talking, keep doing streams, keep pushing my voice until it hurts, and eventually it won't hurt anymore. So, yes. So yeah, I'll continue work on this in my off time whenever I'm feeling like doing some game production type stuff. But that's about all that I have to show as of yet. I mean, there was quite a few things, quite a few like quests and everything, so it's, I think, pretty impressive what I've done thus far. And hopefully I can make like a whole official tutorial, maybe on YouTube, about the whole thing, because I noticed that resources for how to do this stuff is quite few and far between. I mean, it's a niche game, and an even more niche, topic of making custom content for the game. So to have any kind of tutorial about it is really kind of rare. And I found a few. Some taught me a lot of the stuff that I know how to do. Some things I just kind of learned on my own and figured out by exploring. So I would like to make a comprehensive tutorial of my own, so other people can get into this kind of thing and hopefully make some new and interesting content for their custom Asheron's Call servers, So yes, and I will try to pace myself voice-wise. I am hoping to do an even longer stream on, what is it? I think the 5th of, the 5th of next month, so August 5th. And I'm hoping to do an extra long stream because that is the anniversary of my first stream, so my streaming anniversary, 1 year. And I'm hoping to do something special for that, including like some special reveals and other such things. So if Ebos, if you can be there for that, I would be very appreciative. I'm gonna hopefully stream. I'm aiming for like 8-hour stream, because 6-hour streams are about how, like, the limit of how far I've gone thus far. But an 8-hour stream would be pretty cool, because, you know, that would be pushing the absolute limit of how long I've streamed. And for that special anniversary stream, it would be very nice. So yes, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, it's almost 1 year. I'm quite excited. I feel like a lot has changed. I mean, you know, you may look at it and be like, oh, it's just like 60 followers, and, you know, those are rookie numbers. But at the same time, it's like I went from 0 followers at the start, and like the only people that ever watched my streams were people that I knew in real life. And then now, like, you know, you, Ebos, and a few other people like the Rock Destroyer and Rio and a few other people actually like consistently show up to the stream, and I actually get like familiar faces and very, you know, dedicated viewers. And it's like, sure, the follower numbers aren't huge yet, but you know, it's that first step where you have those few dedicated viewers, and it makes all the difference. It makes the streams a lot less lonely, you know, to just have people you know just show up and talk and chat. So I really appreciate you guys being here and helping me along with that, because, you know, it really, progress just is what you value in how things are going, you know? As I said, other people may look at it and be like, it's not a lot of followers, but that's not the most important thing, and we'll get there, you know? I just gotta keep at it and be consistent, and someday we'll be one of the big ones, you know? And I'm kind of hoping the big anniversary stream will help with that. We'll kind of get some hype going, because, you know, big reveals. I'm hoping to have some writing done that I can unveil at that point, some model progressions to announce there, and some lore-wise stuff to do. So there'll be some cool stuff going on, some exciting stuff, and I hope it goes well. But it's also kind of stressful to put together like a full 8-hour stream of interesting things to do. A lot of it'll probably just be gaming, but I do need to like get out there and start advertising it, you know, which I'm not very good at. I get very stressed trying to advertise things, but yes, I'll work on that, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with my next stream, because I need to stop rambling and actually end the stream. And yeah, once again, thank you guys for dropping in. I had a good time showing you all my cool Asheron's Call stuff, and I'll see you tomorrow with whatever game I play then. So yeah, goodbye.